absolutely delighted we've got Tristram speaking tonight. Tristram is the MP for Stoke-on-Trent Central, well-known historian, author of Building Jerusalem, 10 Cities That Built an Empire, and I'm really looking forward to hearing your views, Tristram, about how cities are changing and what that should mean for the UK as a whole. So thank you very much.
In Manchester, Liverpool and across industrial Britain, the Labour movement and progressive politics came into being to civilise the last urban century. And as we stand on the precipice of a new industrial revolution, the power of the city waxes once again. Whilst national governments groan under the weight of economic stagnation and institutional collapse, dynamic, open, culturally confident cities are now pulling further and further ahead. In Shadow Cabinet, we often used to talk about how handing back power was essential for tackling the great challenges of our time. From mitigating London's economic dominance to raising productivity and reinvigorating local democracy. And in the work Hilary Benn did on the devolution of transport powers, the work programme and the proper integration of public services, you can still see the fruits of that discussion. But despite this, despite Labour leading the way on devolution for much of the last Parliament, when George Osborne announced the first Manchester deal, our centralist instincts returned and we allowed the Tories to capture the spirit of the moment. As a result, we missed a golden opportunity to show how we could deliver, in a time of tight public finances, the three promises of the Labour Party: to reduce economic unfairness, to strengthen our communities, to revitalise our national democracy. The first step in any radical decentralisation of power must be to take advantage of the new devolution settlement on offer. And this requires us in the Labour Party to reshape, but not reject, the current Tory programme. I do not believe the Labour Party can place itself in the position where its only answer to this challenge is simply to fight the cuts. This is also a question of delivery. Labour needs to back the ingenuity of the local state. Our devolution offer should go beyond economic resilience and give cities and councils the tools they need to fight for social justice. Labour must go beyond the government's piecemeal approach, go beyond local authorities too, and look at policies such as community land trusts, which put power directly in the hands of people and communities themselves. As well as devolving powers to redesign services in welfare, health, social care, and arguably most importantly of all, schools and education. If the Labour Party had won the election, we would be devolving powers in schooling. And instead, the government has upped the ante on centralisation. In my view, you just cannot run 10,000 schools from the Education Funding Agency in Whitehall. On practical and ethical grounds, there has to be an element of local planning and democracy, of collaboration between schools for raising standards and spending money effectively. Labour should draw on its own proud heritage of municipal socialism to reinvent England's towns and cities, usher in a new era of civic provision for our essential services. So I'm calling on the government to look specifically at how water services in England can be provided by local civic organisations as it implements legislation to increase competition in the water industry. Today we're gathered in a museum dedicated to the past, but in a city once again dictating the future. The Labour Party's approach to the new urban settlement must be to combine both. Unite our historic mission to battle inequality with the new tools of political devolution and economic democracy. The insight of the modern era is that tackling inequality and building a fair economy is best done by local people and urban power. It is time to forge a Labour League of progressive cities determined to use new powers to grow their economies, educate their young people, build new housing and renew their democracy. I'm always sort of fascinated by Edward Glacer's work on the triumph of the city and his extraordinary account of how Boston used to be more industrial than Detroit. But Boston made a decision about diversifying its economic base, exactly what's happening in Manchester in the last 2 decades. And so having an effective service economy doesn't seem to be opposed to what we're seeing in urban areas. And it's actually a strength for Britain. I think, as I said, I think Manchester is leading the way, and I don't think it is unhealthy that you have a divergence from the national leadership on some of these issues. The whole point about, the notion that the mayor of Chicago would be concerned by what the Democratic National Committee thinks should be, is absurd, or the mayor of Los Angeles should necessarily be fearful of what Hillary Clinton thinks. I mean, I think we have to, and you do it, very well in Manchester, have to have that confidence about what the city needs and the political leadership it needs. But I haven't discussed all of these policy ideas with Jeremy.